Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Comfy Org stream. How's everybody doing today? What's up? Here we are with Jeremy from Black Math. Really cool studio. I've had the pleasure of going down and checking out their spot and got a feel for what they're up to. But I'm going to let Jeremy introduce himself. And I'm also here with Allison, our head of community. Hello, Allison.
Hello, friends, and welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you. Should I introduce it's time to introduce
Let's
myself?
do it. Let's do it, Jeremy. Welcome.
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Jeremy Sahlman. It's interesting. I only have this much space on the screen, so I'll be I use my hands a lot. Yes, I'm one of the founders of a studio called Black Math. Look at me. We are, a small design and technology studio, and we do all kinds of things related to design and technology. I guess I should have had like a pitch ready.
No, it's all good.
I don't think I've ever introed myself.
Yeah, it's a skill. No worries.
Yeah, but we started doing motion graphics, and my background is in building visual effects pipelines and rigging and stuff like that. So design and technology kind of smashing together is our specialty. But we do also make videos and do branding work and whatnot, and more kind of like novel uses of AI as well. So
right on. So what was your first interaction with AI being a traditional artist? Like, were you trepidatious or were you just like excited by what's possible?
Ooh, yes. Well, I remember that there were a bunch of people in our studio that were experimenting like immediately. Like Steve, who is our head of technology, has been using Comfy and since before it was a company.
So you already had an in-house evangelist.
Yes, that is yes, absolutely. Well, or I don't know if he was an evangelist or this still doesn't work. It's
okay.
still easy to do
He's still testing. Yeah.
Yes, but we did have a small group of people that have always been that just want to experiment with tools. And then what I think is interesting is that, about 2 years ago, we decided, okay, we have to confront this as a group of people. What are we going to use? What are we not going to use? How do we feel about it? Instead of just being like, cancel culture was much stronger than it was then. And even in our studio, there are tons of mixed feelings. So
you kind of started by hammering out like a usage policy or at least like a guideline to what's acceptable.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Saying like, well, you don't know how it feels unless you try it. So let's try it and then talk about it with the goal of being able to eventually talk about it in an outward way.
Yeah.
So I think the beginning of this year, we released a manifesto that kind of outlines our philosophy, which is start with art. It's front and center on our webpage, and what generally what we believe is garbage in, garbage out. Which also means the higher quality the inputs, the more sort of intent and artistry that you put into what you're trying to make, like that will be seen and shown and give you results that are, they might not always be good, but your intent is good. Like your intent is always good, right? So yeah, that's where we're headed.
Yeah, that's amazing. The when you say start with art, are you often like did you begin by starting to train your own stuff into Laura's, or was it just a matter of sort of like trying to combine things like style referencing from stuff you'd made? Or yeah, I'm just curious what the inroad was to because for most people start with text prompting, right, where it's sort of you've just got this open sort of almost option paralysis thing of you can make anything in the world, so what do you want to make thing. Whereas I feel like if you start with art, then you're sort of at least you're defining the world on the way in. Was that the mentality to like get inside of something before you just start wandering off the Neptune?
I think that's right. I think there's kind of two ways that people make art creative output, right? Like there's one way where you plan everything and you know exactly where you're headed, and when you work for companies, that's often the way that we have to work, right? We have to have a script, we have to have a storyboard, we have to know exactly where we're going to end and sort of slowly take the client on that journey. And then there's kind of like the let's explore and see what you get kind of journey. And it's hard to sell jobs like that. It's easier to sell R&D and kind of creative exploration that's like that, because you don't know. And I think the tricky part when we first started using AI was selling, like, you can't necessarily have exactly what you want. If you want an amazing output, something that's good at the end, we have to be able to sort of follow our creative noses. Like, we have a general idea of where we're headed. We have artistic intent. We know like the feeling that we want to convey, but I don't know that I can guarantee you this shot, this shot, this shot, and this shot if we are going to use like a 100% AI pipeline. And
actually, that leads me to another question of like, what was that shift like? And what is that shift like explaining to clients? They're not revisions, they're regenerations. We're not like, you can't just say, I want the hat to be blue. And it's not like it was sort of with compositing and stuff where like that's an option. Whereas now you have to redream the whole thing. Like, do clients freak out about that because like you're basically going back to square one every time? Whereas it's so much cheaper that like it's okay to just keep regenerating.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it hasn't really been cheap, been cheaper for most of the things that we have made or wanted to chase, in some cases, have we done things that we never could have done before for, like a lower budget than they treated? Yes, that is true. There have been sort of these, specific use cases that are like that. But I think that it's not an easy road trying to convince your clients that the process is slightly fluid, or I think we have a process document where we literally draw the process. We have the goals as set here, and then we have the process going like this all the way around it. We're like, not sure exactly what this will be like, but we know the intent, and we had to make mistakes as well, right? Like, you have someone that's like, but I want this, but I want this, but I want this. And you're like, all right, back to square, and in the early days, that was where we're like, that cost us more money, than it would have if we had just used a standard pipeline. Like, we didn't see the savings. But then you get better and better at that conversation, and sort of like laying it out up front. And I think when you let your creative partners really chase the idea and the concept in an imaginative way, with sort of like an artistic center or a core gravitational center, instead of like line by line scripts that you're, or shots that you're trying to lock, like the output can be like better, more impactful, more interesting, the more artist hand that we can put into something, I think that we end up being prouder, and I think the work ends up working harder as well. So
yeah, it almost seems like a mix of people. Like, you need the people that can plan it shot by shot, but you also need the people that are adaptive enough to just start wandering around, but not get too lost in the woods, basically. Keep bringing it back to the original concept. Yeah, it's an interesting skill because, like, traditional art's generally been plan, build, execute, protect your process, basically. And now it's just like, I did this and I did that, and if you do this, you're going to get something completely different. So the process itself becomes this like malleable, gooey mess. How do you tell if someone on your team is good at AI?
That is a really great question. Well, I think that when you say gooey mess, I think the thing that gets, like, we always used to go storyboard to style frame, and we would try to get design lock on style frames. And then we would move into animation, and we would generally know what we could animate, how we were going to break the boards apart, how we were going to get to the final state. And now we don't always know if design lock is going to translate into good motion. Like, you have theories, but there are a lot of the tools are changing, and more we're getting, I think everyone is getting better at that. Like, I've done first frame, last frame workflows enough to know that these shots are going to work the way I think they're going to work. But we want to do things that are more interesting that people haven't done. And that's when you're like, I want it to work like this, but we're gonna have to see, you know. So design lock is like a fluid state. Now, you know, I think that's the biggest difference. And the way that you know if people are good or not, I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I think you just have to be willing to put your head down and build and build a sequence and keep trying things. You know, we really do iterate a lot more when we use AI to find the sweet spot than we did with Mode. You know, things were more planned, and now we really have to iterate and find the magic in iteration. You know.
Are you utilizing much MCP or agentic work yet, or is it something that's still in very exploratory state?
Yeah, we've used it. We have used some agents to do some things in very small use cases, but it is not a part of our formal process. It's not like widespread through the studio. Yeah, and
Yeah,
MCP, I mean, I'm very excited about it. We played with it. You know, we played with the Comfy MCP a little bit. We certainly have used many other MCPs in our studio, but I wouldn't say that they are sort of like baked in as like we always work this way now. You know, really our projects are very case by case. You know.
yeah. I'm just mostly curious, basically. You know, as we iterate and stuff, that's one way to do it, is to do it as a person, keep hitting run, see what happens, adjust some things. What I'm finding personally with not necessarily MCP, but just the automation of agentic control of these systems in general, is that I can say, hey, try it 15 ways, I'll look at it, and then I'm finding there's this, like, I can offload some of the labor, like the prompt labor or the thought labor of exploring these things, and then I can use my human skills of curation and like narrative building to weave together something from all the stuff that it makes. Do you find that is useful in like a team setting, or is that something that's more geared towards like an individual creator, to have your sort of, like, are you able to offload that with your team, or is that something like you've just added this new person to the team that can sort of do these batch runs for you? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess
we have not done that yet. You know, like there's two people in our office that are thinking about. So there's this. I was recently at a conference, and someone was talking about how they hated managing people, and they wanted to only manage agents, and that everyone should be building their marketing org as like a team, as like an org chart of agents and people, you know. And I was like, ooh, that is the worst possible way to describe like that. You know, like all I hear is like, no, I do not like, you made it sound bad. But we do have a team starting to think about like, okay, if we did have agents, you know, integrated into our org chart, where would they live? You know, you know, we as a company don't have production coordinators. You know, everyone kind of holds the details. The details are in a whatever, but we've talked like, is that something that would feel right, you know, for a company like ours? And I think the answer is different no matter where you work, right? Or a batch processor or an auto edit assembling age. You know, I don't have the answer for you yet, but I do think, you know, my theory is that there are things in every team that someone would go like, oh yeah, that feels okay. That feels like the right way to do this, you know, like on our team. And when you talk, I mean, I'm more interested as well. Like, what's more important right now, building agents or building skills and tools that people can use? And are they sort of, you know, the same thing? I think there's definitely, crossover and like a gray area. But like when you mentioned MCP and batching, you know, we used to have batching nodes, I think, that we wrote in Comfy that were for us to sort of iterate on ideas.
Yeah.
But yes, would we now probably use the MCP to test and see all of the models, like how they can you make, like recently for this project we just did, we wanted to make cinema graphs, right? So we wanted to do a first frame, last frame workflow where the first frame and the last frame were exactly the same. And every model treats that differently. Some of them, the last frame is actually 3 frames back, and it's like
Yeah.
right on. Some of them, it doesn't exist. It's you know what I mean? So to test all of those, I certainly think that we probably would have gone the MCP, like, hey, build me all of these animations with all of these models that I suspect are going to work, analyze them afterwards, and then put them in a tool so that I can look at them and judge them and evaluate them and rerun them. I mean, absolutely, absolutely. That's where,
Yeah, and like to go back to your point about skills versus agents, I think it is skills. I think your agent is almost like your personal thing. That it's just the
Mm,
shell in which you have your collection of skills or
okay.
collection of things. And I think you nailed it in the sense that like you don't have to think of each agent as an employee, right? Like
Right.
they don't have to have personalities. They can be collections of tools, but those tools can be easier to deal with, like the natural language, the way you address them with natural language just makes it a lot easier for non-technical people to actually nail some of these workflows that are outside of the knowledge scope of someone who doesn't care about the insides of the nodes. Like we actually just had a thing today with Allison. She's working on a video. She wanted to add some cool stuff in the background. She asked our MCP how to do it, and the problem is what she'd asked for is actually very hard to do with AI. She wanted to like do video editing with AI, which is like
Mm,
it's still in its infancy, really. But the MCP tried some stuff, did some nano banana shots, and tried to animate it, and it tried to get there, tried to approximate what you wanted. But what it really needed to do was go try the latest Gemini Omni model, jam 10 seconds of each clip of the video into it, and then like that's the sort of knowledge where the human comes into play, where I can say to the agent, okay, let's chop this clip into 10-second chunks, run it through a Google Omni video, and then these are the prompts I want, versus just asking the open question, I want to do something cool to this video, which is, what a beginner or someone who approaches these tools would just immediately think, oh, I can just ask for whatever I want because these things can do anything. So yeah, I'm not actually sure what my question is here. I think there's like there's a way to use MCP and agentic control, all this stuff, to accelerate and push your existing knowledge. But there is this baseline of like understanding you almost have to have to be able to utilize these tools most efficiently. And yeah, maybe that's a question of like education or something or maybe we just need to make the MCP smarter.
I mean, I think it's a personal question too. We just, during Boston Tech Week, we hosted a few speakers, and one of the speakers was Alex Chen from Google Creative Lab. And the line that I love that he mentions is that you need to be able to hang on to the parts of your process that you really enjoy and love. Like where do you put art into your process? And then you have to decide, can AI do the other parts of the process, or do I need someone else who is that, like that good at those things? Can I get to a proof of concept and then I need artistry from a different type of person to come in? Yeah,
That actually just joggled the question into my brain that I had when I started was how much do you trust the agent to have taste? How much do you trust yourself to have taste? Like, where do you insert yourself in that layer? Do you trust the agent to even look at the outputs and give you a criticism of them, or would you rather just look at the folder of images and make the decision yourself? Like, where are you at right now with your trust level of these agents and their sort of understanding of aesthetics and
I'm a 0.
composition? Yeah, 0.
Yes, I'm a 0. I mean, I think if you're looking for technical things like again, first frame, end frame, I want to know if they match the first frame exactly. Like that's a possibility. Like if there's strict criteria.
Yeah. Like yes, totally. Like data points.
Yeah, but I think again, the thing that you are talking about too, to me, is like I wouldn't even chase that type of stuff unless I needed scale.
I see. Yeah.
And that is not like, we don't need scale. We're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes our clients are. Would we help, like build a tool that helps them reach scale in, or deliver a toolkit or a description of an agent? Yes, potentially. But the work that we do is so bespoke, that you know, we're just not there. You know, we're just not there. There's no way we're gonna assign an agent to. I mean, QC again is different than taste and
Yeah.
like art direction, etc.
Totally.
Yeah. Plus, it also speaks to like automating the thing you like away from, like automating the thing the human is best at away for like
Yeah.
for what?
Yeah.
What do you gain?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a new version of creative friction, right? Like, I don't know if people use this terminology, but I think about it a lot where it's like you're in your process, you hit some kind of roadblock, and you have to find a new way to solve it, or creative problem solving. Maybe that's the word.
Mhm.
And there's some joy in that. And I don't know, I feel like process has started to become a part of the art in and of itself in a way. It kind of reminds me of this conversation I once had with Jason Zeta, who is a filmmaker who some of us will know. Famously, I did not realize, as an aside, that Jason was also the maker of Elf Yourself. If anybody is, if anybody remembers that sort of early internet era, but he had once shown me this really incredible, like, short film that he made predominantly with AI. It was like an action movie, right? And I asked him, I was like, dude, this is so cool. Like, how long did it take you to make this? And he was like, well, you could say 5 production days. You could also say 30 years of developing my cinematic language, taste, and problem solving. And I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's the answer, right? That's the answer with everything. It's the reason why someone who's made music their whole life is better than you at making beats on terrible hardware, because their ear is just 1,000 times better than yours, and that's an experience thing. And yeah, like, how have you found that in your in your line of work, Jeremy? Like, just the accelerator of having the experience and knowing what is and what isn't going to work. Like, do you find that you have already built a like a gut for that? Like, when you see a new model, you're like, oh, this one probably not going to be great at this. Like, I can already tell. Like,
Well, I certainly have not.
no, but do you think like the people on your team have?
Yeah.
Like the people that are closest to it. I mean, like, for me, I start developing this thing. I look at a model and go, this thing's gonna suck at like little things going fast, or it's gonna, like, I can tell this model's gonna be bad at illustration or something, because it feels like it was trained on X or trained on
Yeah.
Y. Like, yeah, I'm just wondering if that's something you're noticing your people that are closest to AI having, or if it's
Well, I do
just
know
by
that,
delusion.
people have preference,
Yeah.
like, so there, it's very clear that people are developing preference on tools that they use. And it's not, I mean, in general, like, my theory of creative work is that the tools are going to get more and more disparate, right? Like, it used to be everyone was in Adobe was the thing, that was it. And then it was like, oh, there's something else. And I think that that is only going to become more and more and more true. And so I think that, creative tool preference is going to be very unique from person to person. And the muscles that I mean, one person in our studio, for instance, can move very fast, and I fall in love with every single thing that I'm like, you know what I mean? Because they have created a rhythm or a preference or an understanding of the tools that they use. And I think once you have that core, like, this is how this is my muscle, then you can start to be like, okay, I'm going to develop this skill, or I'm going to look at, you know what I mean? But for the first year of using new tools, you're kind of like, what tool, you know what I mean? Like, you're bouncing around and you don't have any instincts. So yes, I feel like people are developing fairly strong instincts and more so sort of preferences, about like how they want to work, what they want to work in, what they like and don't like. Which is also why I think that the Comfy API and MCP are interesting, because they kind of unlock new ways of working in a tool that traditionally has been like very technical and power user focused, So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the main reason why we brought you on. I was lucky enough to come visit while you guys were doing the hackathon to build out a product, a whole story system with Comfy. I'll let you explain it, but
Sure.
I was blown away at the level of integration you guys had already built with Comfy, with almost no guidance from us or help. Like, I was absolutely blown away by the team. So yeah, just if you'd love to describe it and let us know
Sure.
how it all worked out.
I think one of the funny things is that that you kind of hear in with people sort of making breakthroughs or making interesting things that it's like, you don't know that it's the wrong way to do it. You're just like, where is the pipeline? Where is the studio workflow tool? Like, how are we
Yeah.
oh, you can't do it that way. It's going to be a Chrome plugin. It's whatever. So I have a friend who works at 11 Labs, and we love to talk about kind of like the future of audiobooks and like what that unlocks, I guess. And we were talking about 11 Reader, which is kind of a cool product that they have, which allows you to bring any audio, any book into their platform and read it in a voice that you choose. Basically, like, you have voice choice. And we were just talking a lot about like the future of audiobooks, the future of audio augmented comics. And I was like, oh my God, I want to work on this so badly. And then we had this opportunity for Tech Week. And so I pitched this internally to the team, like, hey, we have 3 weeks. We could do a hackathon and try to do this experiment. And unfortunately, people said yes. So we made, let's see if I can bring it up here. It's best experienced on the phone, but it's storyviewer.blackmath.com. And it is an audiobook that is written. It's written by an agent, and we've tried a couple different writing agents as well, from a database of inputs, right? So we talked about different characters, different people in the studio invented characters, invented like items in the universe, and then we tried to stitch that together. The first idea was that it was going to be a nonlinear narrative and it could reassemble based on user inputs. And then, we were like, all right, simplify. So the story is baked. You can listen to it. And the product and the story part was a small team. And then we also built these workflows. And the idea was to invite people to our office with all different skill sets, like people who have used Comfy and other tools, and people that like literally have never used AI before, and try to get them all to be able to contribute visually to this story. And so I can share, should I share my screen?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I saw it in action. People loved it. Like, it was such a cool way to be able to like collaboratively tell a story.
So can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the portal that we built for our hackathon. And this sidecar essentially is like our team workspace. So everyone can see the chapter of the story that they're working on, and they can look through the different chapters, and then they can add an image basically. So they can add any image, like from their thing. They also have this library of assets. So character sheets, these are, drawn by people in our studio, worlds, etc. And then Comfy workflows basically. So we have the basic workflow, the cinematograph creator, a close-up generator. I think we had some more complex ones. And people could just open these and start prompting in them. And we used the apps feature to set these up so they're all very easy. And then we also built, let's see if this loads, these custom surfaces as well. So we built a dynamic fight scene where you can choose 2 characters to have a battle. So you choose a Vorlith and a character, and then you give it a prompt. And this is all built on top of the Comfy API, which I believe was experimental at the time, but
yeah,
it did work. And you would essentially like enter a prompt and generate your fight scene. And we also built a Beerchwater, which I guess is not beer or water, generator as well. And you can see all of the different generations from the hackathon that everyone made. And our goal was to like define a style, that people could work within. And so people would just make all of these images, and then they would upload them to the story, basically. So you can see all of our Birchwater generations, our wizard generations. And the style did, some people were determined to like brute force the style, to like, this has more outlines than it should, etc. Someone took a photo of our cooler and then turned all the drinks into Birchwater, which I thought was fun. But quite a lot of people contributed to this, and now it still exists. Like, you can go to the let's see, you can go here and you can launch the reader, and let me see if I can play just a second of it. And my kids liked it. Okay, I have no idea what that is. Oh,
I think the audio is not coming through with it. That's okay.
Could you hear the audio?
No, it didn't come through.
Cool. Well, yeah. So, but you can go and you can listen to it on your phone and see what you think. So
yeah, it was so cool, man. Yeah, there's something really interesting about building together with people, and the interface you built made Comfy, like and like the MCP does. It just puts it in the background, and it uses it for its skills and its strengths, but it doesn't make you sort of, doesn't force you to have to use the interface, which I think is a really interesting way to get people in, and a really interesting way to let them explore their imagination with, like, and I know I say this to a lot of creators and they agree with me. I love a good box. I love a good, like, a constraint system. I like having parameters to create inside. And I think that really works well when you can define the, like you said, start with the art, get the style going, get everything cooking, and then everyone's building into the same world, and then you're building together. It's super fun.
Yeah, it was fun. So yeah, that's what we're gonna.
So how did the talk go? I know you presented it at Boston Tech Week afterwards. How did how was it received? Did people enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, well, in general, we had amazing speakers. We had amazing speakers, and there were a lot of people there that were AI novices or like curious, and I think what's interesting is whenever you find something that feels okay, like if you're a skeptic, or if you're like, I don't know how I feel about AI, and then you see something that feels okay, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. You couldn't have done that before, and it and it seems like a cool use case. And again, I think I mentioned Alex Chen talked. He's fantastic. He just makes it seem so easy and approachable. I think his talk and Meredith's talk. And Erica Kung talked. She works at Squarespace in production. They have a lot of these conversations as well, about like what's right, what's not right. Do we want to use things? Do we not want to use things? She had a really insightful talk as well, about like what to protect in the process and whatnot. So it was received well, and yeah, generally I'm excited about it, because I think that I feel pretty confident that like a collaborative future where people can make things that they couldn't have made before, or contribute to things that they couldn't have contributed before, is a cool future, like a cool future, you think about all media, like where it potentially could head. And it's, I don't hate it. Like I like it,
Yeah, I think everyone who doesn't like AI might have been shocked to see the Netflix announcement that it was used in over 300 shows this year.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of that thing of, it's slowly overtaking. Everyone's using it. Do you think, like, where do you as a studio, where do you guys draw the line? What won't you do with AI?
That's a good question.
Like, what won't you let it touch, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not sure exactly. yet. I mean, there's
So
definitely
no hard lines. That's probably good, honestly.
yeah, there's definitely a line, but I think people are not being asked to or we're not being asked like, hey, hey, would you do this? And we're like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like most people when they come to us have really toiled with this a lot, like this, like using synthetic humans. Obviously there's places where it feels okay, potentially, or it feels like, oh, that's, not a human and it's obvious. And then there's places where it can feel like absolute ick, like, oh, I need to build trust with my user. But the person is not, like is not real, like an obvious no, so yeah, we haven't seen anything too gross. Most people come to us and they ask us like, what do you want to do? Do you want to use these tools? Do you want to not use these tools? Where's your line? And they're sort of trusting us to have a stance and an opinion that is moral and aligns with, like, I don't know, the state of culture, I guess, or part of this, a good percentage of it, at least, so.
Right on. Yeah, we were speaking with Aaron Sorofsky and Ryan Summers from Sorofsky, and they were talking about now it's actually it's a double-edged sword with clients, because now what used to be a very non-collaborative process can be very collaborative on their end. They can make like revisions with like Nano Banana and just like, like, how are you finding that, negotiating that with new clients or clients that can now just whack something into open AI and be like, actually, I want it to be this, and then they send you something back and you're like, ooh, yeah. Like, is that becoming a problem? If you're seeing that even, or is
I think that the biggest challenges that we faced in that arena were like early mid-journey days, when every advertising agency was sort of selling their clients on things that were impossible and then coming to us and asking them, hey, can you animate this? And it was like, not the way you think, you know what I mean? It was just impossible.
Yeah.
So we definitely took a few jobs, made a lot of caveats, like, oh, it's not going to quite look like that, or we'll get close or whatever. And they didn't work out. The client had seen, the gold, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
But it's less of a problem, like there's just more education everywhere now. So,
and the models get more, like the fidelity and the physics and all the things get better to the point where they're almost like now able to cop styles and illustrative styles just because they're so aware of the input material. It's getting really interesting. As a studio, were you ever into training LoRa's, or was it always just using input images into systems? Because a lot of people, they train LoRa's and they feel like it might be a bit of a time sink or resource sink to lay it all into these LoRa's and then have the architecture change in 3 months or whatever. So are you leaning more towards using input images as style references, or training your own in-house like systems?
Yeah, I have not personally trained LoRa's. A few people in the company have in the past, but recently have not. And so I think it really comes down to, again, the use case. If you're trying to scale a certain type of creative, and you want a repeatable, ownable look, for a year or two, whatever it is, then I think it's probably like the way to, like, you need stability. You want to own what you did. You want it to be as predictable as possible. You want to know all the edge cases, right? But if you're trying to, be at the cutting edge of what's possible and do, and you're doing one-off creative, or you're building a tool that you want to get, to progressively get better, you really need to own all the inputs, like because it changes very quickly. I think that's my take. But again, I'm not. Steve's probably cringing at me right now. I'm stepping out of my field of expertise for sure. Oh, muted, Pers.
It's all good. It's there's so many things to know with Comfy, with AI in general,
Mhm.
diffusion. And how are you finding that? Are you finding that to be a drain on your brain? Are you finding it to be information overload when you just want to think about maybe creative direction, or is it inspiring, or is it all of the above? Where does it sit in your brain? Like, how much time do you spend
Yeah, how much
yeah,
tool
like
fatigue?
absorbing new knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, tool fatigue is real. Like, there's always a new way to do something, and this is again why we say like we start with art. The art leads, the tools follow, because we want to chase our ideas, not change like what a tool can, not chase what a tool can do. And I think that is. Um, when you see people in orgs that have top-down pressure to adopt AI, generally that I think a lot of the time turns into like tool chasing. Like, how can this tool help me? What can I do? What do they want to hear? But if you're trying to build like a bottom-up movement of, knowledge and infrastructure and like a passion for technology, you really need to lead with and let people lead with like what drives them. And for us, it's the creative drives us always. So do I have tool fatigue? Absolutely. Do I watch way too many videos about all the tools and be like, how could they? Yes. But then the fun part is imagining what we want to create, and really trying to plot a cool path. And then it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to achieve this? And it makes it's in pursuit of fun then. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it should always be, hopefully.
Yeah. The joy of creation is what we are chasing in our studio, is what I often like to say. When there's no joy in creation, like, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Would do you feel a pressure, the same pressure everyone else is feeling about replacement, or do you feel like um the answer to that is like agility and just the
Mm,
ability to adapt to whatever comes out, sort of like I feel like there's a stone wall, right, with some artists where they see what's happening as an affront and a replacing effect, and they're worried about being replaced, which is totally understandable. But then there's another side of artists who uh, they see the new burgeoning tools. They know, like, well, this happens every 10 years. I'm just gonna go nuts and see what it can do for me. Um, yeah, this is turning into a soapbox, actually, more of a question, but I guess, yeah. Do you see it? Like, do you see the acceleration side? Do you see the replacement side? How does the staff feel? The people that aren't AI pilled in your
mm.
studio, are they feeling like? Can you feel the anxiety, or do you think, yeah, do you think as a
Well,
studio
I
we're
think
facing
first
this?
I would say that even like the people that use AI the most avidly in our studio are not AI pilled, I think.
Okay, all right,
Honestly, I think that they are technology pilled, and they are like
got it.
visual explorers. But I mean, one thing that I often say is that like creative people have like very strong opinions that they will throw away in a second. Like, that is our job. It's to like lean way in and like get all into something, and like, but it could be wrong.
Well, actually,
um, so I think that the replacement. I think that the power of the creative mind and the creative opinion, and a creative opinion, like, brings infinite and everlasting value. And I believe in a future where that is going to become more valuable, not less. I plan on getting paid way more in the future, not less, because and the same is true for like our entire team. Like, the value that is inside the minds of the team that I work with is like unlocked this much, and we constantly fight the battle of like wanting to do more than we are capable of. And if we can continue to unlock some of those things with any technology, you know, I think that it, you know, like the future is bright. Now, the thing that I will also say, the skills-based economy, like it puts a bad taste in my mouth, you know, like I really don't like, there are hundreds of thousands of companies that basically try to bake down what people do into a skill. And a skill is the thing that someone will try to copy and replace, you know? So I think that every person has to go on a journey to really understand the value that they bring, no matter who they are, and be able to articulate that, because that is the, you know, like that is the sword of the creative, you know, like that is the thing that you will use to fight through people saying like, oh, you're these two skills, right? Okay, you know, yeah. So
We're already seeing that.
yeah.
The front end design skill in Claude, for instance, makes everything purple. Every dashboard is purple. You've seen it. Any vibe coded app looks exactly the same. This is an extension of this problem. So I always say to people that are working with agents and stuff, like, build your own skills. Like, that's an extension of your experience with the agent. It's an extension of your creative process. Build your own skills. You can release them if you want, but just know that someone else, once they have that skill, it's the same, you're talking to the same agent essentially.
Yeah.
If you have a unique voice, you can protect that. It's okay. You don't have to share everything you make, basically. But that being said, if you make something that's really cool and everyone can use it and you don't mind, like, that's what open source is all about. So, drop that skill. Like I released a bunch of skills to make it easier to use Comfy with Claude. That's not to me, that's not something that's uniquely useful to me. Now, will I release the skill for a specific post-processing method that I'm working on for a series of pieces? No, that's my thing. That's something I want to keep to myself. It's my own thing, and you'll probably be able to figure out how to do it down the road. That's fine. That's how art works. That's the process. But are you finding, like, are there skills you guys would want to open source, or is there like everything you'd want to keep sort of in-house? Where do you find the value in this?
Well, I think we're talking about two different types of skills, because I'm talking.
Yeah.
For one,
boilable skills. Like, we're talking more technical.
Do I want to open source thing? I want to give away anything that again, like I want to give away just enough to prove the incredible power of our team. Power of our team, and any. There is a fine line, I guess. Like, me personally, I'd probably give everything away,
right?
But there are some unlocks that like you need to get business value for like a little bit,
And maybe they're hard fought. Maybe you spent time and resources.
That's exactly right. Like you're only ahead of someone in any given category for the time is compressing, right? It's shorter and shorter and shorter, basically. I do believe that animators, like we talk about sort of like the curve of adoption or the curve of technology and where we are, and you can be like way at the front, right? And this is where you're building the future. And then to me, animators always sit like pretty high on that curve. And we used to talk about like, oh, is there danger of us like falling behind? And I was like, I think instinctively we're going to stay right at that same spot when it comes to technology. And we don't want to get too far ahead of that spot, because we don't want to build something that someone else is going to build in 6 months, and that's like I feel like that is a big, oh, I'm building this up. Adobe came out with that tool, or Comfy came out with that tool. You know what I mean? Like if you build for the sake of building and not for the sake of like your product or the thing you're making, like that's the danger you run, is basically like wasting your time, money, and energy, And then I think what you said before too about, like sort of like the I don't know how to say that, sort of all products become the same product.
Right. Yeah.
This is, again, why creative perspective is going to become more important in the future. So when we work on products and product vision, there's two things that typically, like, people inside the org are chasing MVP, right? What is the cheapest thing that solves the problem of my user? And we always talk about MLP, which is the minimum lovable product. What is the thing that people fall in love with? Like people say that like brand is the only thing that has the ability to create an unreasonable, like value within a company, right? Like you can 100x a company that's maybe worth 10 on paper. And I think that chasing minimum lovable product is the same thing, and the more you can pour of yourself into products, like we are moving towards an economy where the big guys are going to get beat by individuals in more and more and more cases. And if you are trying to move faster than them, I truly believe the faster that you move, the more unlovable, the more generic your product becomes. And that's, I mean, you can see that in every IDE that is out there right now. They all look exactly the same. Every big tech company that is truly moving very, very fast, releasing features, like their UI, their UX, the brand within their product is minuscule or the exact same 5% because they're chasing like, what are the use cases?
Or completely eroding because they're trying to move too quickly.
That's right. And at some point, like if like a giant company is moving really, really quick and then an open source company comes out and starts beating them in all their benchmarks and they don't have a brand to hang on to and everything looks the same, like people are missing this window. It's, like you got to build something that people love and that's interesting and unique and that is fueled by creative minds and creative people. Our future is bright. So, maybe,
Yeah, we should have worn sunglasses.
Right there. Yeah. So
right on, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we'd love to have you back on in the future to just talk about this kind of stuff because it's really refreshing to hear studios just embracing and diving in and trying stuff. And it kind of harkens back to what you're talking about being animators being on the curve or ahead of it. If it wasn't AI, it'd be some other modality you're exploring, right? So yeah, it's awesome. It's just awesome to create without limits and just see where it goes. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. And if there's anything you want to shout out about Black Math or anything you got coming up, please do.
Oh man. Oh yeah, we have. If you live in Maine, we have a Maine event with some awesome speakers coming up August 5th in partnership with AIGA and Mecca, which is a college. I live in Maine, so there's the street. I also work from a half demolished building right now, which is why I get this amazing office. But yeah, no, just thank you for having me on, and appreciate you. So.
Oh yeah, we appreciate you too. Thanks so much. Cool. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, bye.
Take care, everyone.